Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining me on a new episode of Best and Worst Track of the Week on the Music Reviewer podcast. My name's Josh, and today, we're just going through another Best and Worst Track of the Week. If you're new to Best and Worst Track of the Week, welcome. All Best and Worst Track of the Week is me doing a weekly show where I take the new entries into this week's Billboard Hot 100 and review all of them for you with the letter grade, and then pick one that's the worst, and then pick one that's the best. That's literally all it is. We just go one by one. But thanks for joining me today on this episode of the week of October 31st. So we're getting pretty late into the year now. It's almost November, but anyways, before I get started, I just want to let everyone know that a new review dropped yesterday covering the latest Omar Apollo album titled Apollonio. If you're not familiar with Omar Apollo, I suggest maybe checking out his stuff if you're a fan of R&B. Check out the album if you have some time. He's sort of a mix between alternative R&B and bedroom pop. Had some thoughts on the album. I thought the album was decent overall. If you haven't checked out the last week's Best and Worst Track of the Week as well, kind of a light episode if you have some time. It shouldn't take that long to listen to, but anyways, let's get started. So I'd say overall this week was very different from last week, mainly because we have more entries. The movement on the charts kind of confirmed my suspicion 2 weeks ago that a lot of things were dropping and we're sort of seeing a shift, and I think a lot of the shift came in this week. But I have to say the outlook on all this stuff isn't very good. This has been probably one of the more prominent duds on this show in terms of quality coming in this week, and I'd say a lot of it was subpar. Just forewarning there. The best track of the week here, I really had to dig it out of me to see which one I actually liked more between a couple songs, even though I didn't really like most of it. But anyways, just some highlights before we start. Mood by 24K Gold and Ian Dior still at number 1 this week. I thought that was sort of a surprise. I thought something else would have knocked it down, but it seems like it has a lot of momentum behind it. I don't mind that this track is on top. Underneath that, we have WAP at number 2. That's also very surprising to me. I thought at some point WAP would have lost steam by now, essentially because we're already into fall and summer has left us, but no, WAP is still around. Don't know really what the deal's up with that, if it's going to eventually die off soon or not, but it seems like it's still holding strong. And then an even more impressive feat, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, still at number 4 this week. It didn't move up or down, but it held strong at number 4 compared to the other newer stuff around it. I think that's quite impressive. And then, to my dismay, Holy went up to number 9 by Justin Bieber and Chance the Rapper, one of our worst tracks of the week. Still have PTSD from listening to it. Don't ever want to listen to it again if I can avoid it. But yeah, it's up to number 9 this week, and I just really hope it's not gaining any more traction, because it's just knowing Billboard and the general consensus, I can see this getting up a little bit higher, unfortunately. And then we have One Beer by Hardy, one of our first ever worst track of the week, up to 37. Still some steam behind it. It's kind of getting into that upper quarter territory. If it reaches up there, who knows what can happen. But on a positive note, we have Pretty Heart by Parker McCollum up to 44. Slowly but surely, it's still doing its thing. It's grinding it out. I'd like to see it get a little bit higher, hopefully. And to my surprise, a track that's jumped up a little bit, not too much, You Two Love by Neo and Jeremiah, up to 70. I thought this would at least drop out or be quite low at this point, but the fact that it went up shows a little bit of, I guess, positive outlook. I'm not sure how much it can keep up, but I like seeing this do well. And then our worst track of the week last week, Baby I'm Jealous by BB Rexa and Doja Cat, dropped out. I didn't really know how much hit potential it has or still has, but it doesn't look good at this point. But also our best track of the week last week, Sophia by Clairo, dropped out, which it wasn't a really surprise there. I figured it wouldn't last too long because of its, I guess, indie nature. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the tracks this week. First one was Champagne Night by Lady A. If Lady A sounds a little strange to you, that's because Lady A is Lady Antebellum, the country group that's been out quite some time at this point. They're probably around 15 years going. They changed their name due to social justice, I guess, precautions. They came in at 100 this week with a kind of sanitary, feel-good country track. There's a pretty standard jingly guitar hook in the introduction that is kind of dime a dozen to what they're trying to do. A syncopated guitar riff structuring the track when it gets to like the verses, giving it kind of like a tropical country flavor. I'm not a huge fan of that, unfortunately. And it's like this ode to drinking country track that we're kind of seeing pick up. I've been seeing a lot of kind of these songs lately, especially with last week, A Hole in the Bottle. And another thing that I've found interesting with this track is, I think it's from the show Songland. If you're not familiar with Songland, it's kind of like a game, not a game show, but just like a singing talent show, but a more technical approach with they bring on songwriters to write songs for big musicians. So I guess Lady Antebellum was the musician on that week. So I guess that's pretty cool. But yeah, the track to me just panders a lot to modern pop country aesthetics all throughout. Kind of loses Lady Antebellum's or Lady A's charm of whatever they had over the past few years. There's some rhythmic cadences in the chorus that kind of attest to that pop country pandering. Copy paste guitar solo thrown into that could literally go on any other country song that's doing this type of stuff. I thought the track was okay. I gave it a C. The next track came in at 97, titled Pardon, featuring Lil Baby by T.I. That's someone we haven't heard in a while, or at least for me. I guess T.I. is still trying to keep his name somewhat relevant, but I don't think this track is really going to do him much favors. Starting with like this really annoying production in the beginning that kind of samples these cheap synth sounding strings. And it does sample this one track that kind of brings out the worst of the track, really. There's some chirpy instrumentation that's really annoying all throughout. T.I. honestly kind of just sounds like he has since for the past 20 years at this point. It's just phone it in T.I. in my opinion. This track is more of like an elongated track, so it does go through quite a few verses. The hook, in my opinion, isn't memorable, and Lil Baby's on that, and anything he does on this track seems to outperform T.I. here, and that's not really a good thing, honestly. I feel like if T.I. really wanted to make a statement with something like this, he should have at least done a better job to make sure he was doing as good of a job as his feature. It's a bit of a boring track. Could do without it. I gave it a C minus. And then the next track was something I just can't get over. Honestly, if you like this track, I'm not gonna blame you, but it's titled Throat Baby, parentheses Go Baby, by BRS Kash, coming in at 93. First time I'm encountering BRS Kash. I guess, long story short, he's an Atlanta guy, kind of an innocuous trap rapper. That's kind of what I categorize him in. But this song is just humorous. I don't really know if someone really genuinely enjoys this, but the song is immediately greeting you with this. The track immediately greets you with this stupid hook, and it's a song about what you think it's about. You know, go figure, Throat Baby. The accompanying thin sounding guitar track here sounds gross as it's thrown in all throughout the track. The only part that I can really kind of get behind is like this build up pre-chorus section right before the hook. There's some angst to it, at least there, that I guess I can see I can hear the energy behind that. But the production here just sounds cheap in so many areas, and with it being a track literally just about, I guess, enveloping yourself in how much you enjoy getting head, it is humorous at some points, but I really don't see how this is something someone's enjoying at the club. Not that people are really going to the club nowadays, but Who's listening to this? That's what I'm wondering. Who's just vibing at their house listening to Throat Baby? No offense if you are, but I just don't know how I can get behind a track in my day-to-day life, I guess. I give it a D. The next track was Happy Does by Kenny Chesney, coming in at 85. I guess this was kind of like the standard country track we're getting this week, with the exception of Lady A. It's an average Kenny Chesney track. There's some clear and rich production at times, especially on the more organic textures, like in the guitar. And again, this is another country track that kind of just goes for this sanitary, happy-go-lucky type of mood to it. And it sounds exactly like how you would expect Kenny Chesney to be on a track in 2020. Doesn't quite sound like his best material, but there's technically nothing wrong with it. But that's all really I have to say about it. I gave it a C. The next track came in at 71, titled Hate the Way, featuring Blackbear by G-Eazy. I think this is the first time I'm covering G-Eazy. I may be wrong. But yeah, I don't think I have to really go further than that to explain. G-Eazy is just a rapper, in my opinion, that is kind of... he's kind of weaning off any fame he's had in the 2010s, in my opinion. Unless he drops like a genre-defining album or, something that is completely unexpected, I really don't see anyone caring about G-Eazy anymore at this point, other than diehard fans. But yeah, this track definitely doesn't even sound like a G-Eazy track, if there's such a thing. It sounds like a blackbear track. And this track actually sounds a lot better than a lot of the stuff on that blackbear album. I'll give you that. If this was on the blackbear album, I would have liked that. G-Eazy continues to sound like a slightly more talented Macklemore. That's not a compliment. And then the track is structured around this washed out guitar chord progression and trap beat. It doesn't really sound all that great, but it's something. Stylistically, I'm not a fan of the rap song with the sung pop chorus song structure. It's a tad bit predictable. This is exactly what that track is. It's predictable, and Blackbear honestly seems to be the best part of this track. I gave it a C-. Next track came in at the highest point this week for new entries. Lonely by Justin Bieber, Benny Blanco. I guess I'll shamelessly say, I guess I didn't know Benny Blanco was a force in the pop music industry as a producer. But if that's exactly all there is to this for Benny Blanco. He just did the production here, and it's kind of minimal at best. Like, there isn't any, flashy gimmicks or anything like that. This is a really exposed track and a ballad that I was surprised to see Justin Bieber do. The track is structured with this light and warm organ key sounding texture. The vocal performance by Justin Bieber is pretty well performed. It's emotional at times, and it's an exposed track overall. He does sell what he's doing. There's a somewhat of a dark aesthetic mixed in with all that lyricism about how he's, sad. And it seems to fit Justin Bieber decently. But let's be honest here, like, if this track were more upbeat, poppy, and just given more flashy production, this is just a Jean Bellion track, right? That's what I see it as, at least. I'm just not sure what to think about. The only thing that really bothered me about this track, honestly, it's the lonely whimpering line that doesn't sit well with me. The part where he's actually singing the title of the track, where he's going on this kind of like fluctuating high note back down. It sounds like yodeling almost. That's what it sounded like to me. I'm not going to attempt to imitate it. I struggled. This almost got best track of the week, but I just couldn't do it after it got in my head with the yodeling comparison. So I give it a B though. But yeah, now we're at that point where I will go ahead and go over the worst track of the week. This week's worst track of the week, honestly, is probably, I say it a lot every week, but the charts continue to surprise me. It's probably one of the worst tracks I've gotten on this show. It's up there with Holy by Justin Bieber. It's up there with that one Taylor Swift song that I just couldn't hate. off of Folklore. But anyways, the track is titled Cancelled by Larray or Larry. I don't know the intention of this. To put it as plain as possible, this is just novelty music for social media followers, for social media personality. And when I was listening to this, I didn't know that. I kind of suspected it because of the nature of the track. And it didn't really take me that long to confirm it, because even Wikipedia lists his music as novelty. That's pretty much all you need to know. The delivery and performance of this whole entire track are super subpar in terms of rapping. It's just the same flow and sort of mannerisms thrown again in a sort of loopy sort of manner. And it's really annoying. It's like this recycled flow with all these pop culture internet references. There is a beat switch on here that it's one of these very popular beat switches that got popular on TikTok and all this. And I, out of curiosity, I listened to some other of Larray's tracks, and he uses the same freaking beat on all of his music for the most part, and it's on this track, so it's a gimmick. It's a total gimmick. It's just this track about call out culture and cancel culture. And I suspect Larry is really just a part of like this huge problem we have right now online with, it being such a toxic place. But anyways, worst track of the week here. I struggle to even call this, music. But if this is someone's cup of tea, I mean, more power to you if you can really enjoy what's coming out of this track. The best track of the week was a bit of a struggle, honestly. I don't even know if I would rate it technically higher than Lonely, but it just wasn't as annoying as Lonely at some parts. The track was Your Mind Still featuring Drake by Young Blue, coming in at 52. Another clean guitar trap instrumental. I think it's sampled from a Sting song. The vocals come in nicely in the beginning of the track, at least. The vocal performance is at least believable for the most part. The track also has some nice rhythmic elements. There's a decent groove behind it. Drake does sound a bit nasally and in his higher range. I'm not sure if that's just me or if anyone noticed that. But on this verse, he sounds genuinely like hurt. Like he sounds sad. It's really strange because it's just a feature. But yeah, it's just a different take on like the crooner type of R&B trap thing going on right now. And it's somewhat original. Apparently Young Blue is like a technically gifted rapper, but he mainly flexes the vocal chops here. I don't really know much else about him other than that. But yeah, best track of the week there. Like I said, it kind of won on a whim. I wasn't in love with this track, but such is the way this show goes sometimes. But if you made it to the end of this episode, thanks for listening. My name's Josh. I'll be covering some more things soon. Look out for more album reviews, or just tune in next week if you're digging the podcast. Leave some feedback if you're on YouTube. If you like the podcast, like and subscribe. But anyways, take care of yourselves.